Good evening. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has emerged victorious in one of Turkey's most consequential elections. His supporters celebrating after he saw off a strong opposition challenge to win a runoff vote and another 5 years of political control. With 99% of the vote now counted, President Erdogan has just over 52% of the vote, leaving the opposition candidate Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu on just under 48%. The celebrations may be short-lived though, with Turkey still facing major economic woes. Our chief international correspondent Ben Lewis is covering the election. He joined us tonight from Istanbul. Good evening, Ben. Erdogan declared his win to be a victory for the whole of Turkey, but it seems many Turks might disagree.
And absolutely, Janice, good evening. Almost 48% of voters wanted to get rid of President Erdogan, but that is unlikely to change the way in which he governs. And we heard that in his victory speech last night. He was preaching the importance of unity and then mocking his defeated opponent. Just weeks ago, it looked like President Erdogan was set to lose power.
Türkiye'yi çok seviyoruz.
Now, victorious once more, he told supporters we'll be together until the grave.
Kazanan sadece biz değiliz. Kazanan Türkiye'dir. Kazanan tüm kesimleriyle milletimizin ta kendisidir.
His followers didn't have to wait long to know their man had won. Just a couple of hours after polls closed, it was clear the president had secured another 5 years in office.
Kimse kaybetmeyecek, herkes kazandı. Çok mutluyuz. Bugünü bekliyorduk zaten.
Gelecekte Türkiye'yi çok güzel günler bekliyor inşallah. Biz buna inanıyoruz. Biz buna 20 yıldan beri inanıyoruz Tayyip Erdoğan'ın önderliğinde. İnşallah çok daha güzel günler bizi bekliyor Türkiye Cumhuriyeti olarak.
Gerçekten hak ettiğimiz bir galibiyet aldık. Yetersiz ama evet, yani normalde %90'a %10 bitmesi gereken bir seçim.
The result was a little closer than these Erdogan supporters had been hoping, but a win is a win. The opposition had said this was the best and perhaps last chance to get rid of President Erdogan. They couldn't do it. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, who had the backing of 6 different opposition parties, urged his supporters to keep the struggle for democracy alive, to fight against what he called Erdogan's authoritarian government.
Son yılların en adil olmayan seçim sürecini yaşadık. Devletin bütün imkanları bir siyasi partiye seferber edildi. Bir adamın ayakları altına serildi.
For those seeking to end the president's 20-year rule, the result was a bitter disappointment.
Şu an Türkiye'deyim ve Türkiye'de kalma taraftarıydım ta ki bugüne kadar. Çünkü bugünkü seçim Cumhuriyet mi yoksa monarşi mi, bunun arasında bir seçim yapmak zorunda bırakıldı halk ve zannediyorum halk şu an monarşiyi tercih etti.
Bir yıl boyunca da
Erdogan making his formal victory speech at Ankara's presidential palace rather than his party's headquarters as is traditional. It's yet another sign of the increasingly blurred line between party and state.
artık seçim dönemine dair tüm tartışmaları ve çekişmeleri bir kenara bırakarak milli hedeflerimiz.
Over the last 2 decades, he has granted himself more authority, using the levers of power to his personal advantage. The opposition fears what he will do next. They came closer than ever before to ending his rule, but still fell short. Recep Tayyip Erdogan remains in charge, but his country is deeply divided.
So Ben, let's talk about President Erdogan's domestic agenda. Turkey, of course, is in the midst of an economic crisis. That's all happened under Erdogan's watch. So do we know how he plans to fix it?
Look, we really don't, Janice. Last night in his speech, President Erdogan said that inflation is the biggest problem facing Turkey at the moment. The official rate of inflation is around 45%, but speak to anyone on the street here, they'll tell you it's actually much higher than that. And most economists say it is the result of Erdogan's own unorthodox economic policies. He's given no sign that he's planning to change tactics. perhaps increase interest rates to reduce inflation. We know the president's main priority domestically is actually going to be a political one. He said last night that he wants to take back control of Istanbul and Ankara, two cities which currently have mayors from opposition parties, and there are local elections here next year.
And Ben, this of course has a global impact too, so tell us about the international reaction to this result.
Well, one of the first world leaders to congratulate President Erdogan on his re-election was Russian President Vladimir Putin. He wrote him a lengthy letter describing him as a dear friend. There were also well-wishers from Western leaders, but privately, many of them would have been hoping to see the back of President Erdogan. They have found him difficult to deal with in recent years and believe that he is forging too close ties to Moscow. At the same time, he can play a mediator role with regards to Ukraine and Russia. Of course, Turkey was responsible for that grain export deal which continues from Ukraine. Janice, the one other thing Western leaders want to see from President Erdogan is for him to drop his objection to Sweden being admitted to NATO. They want that to happen before the upcoming NATO Leaders Summit in July.
Thanks so much. That's our Chief International Correspondent Ben Lewis with analysis from Istanbul.